When people talk about the unbearable lightness of being, they often bring up ideas like spirit and flesh, lightness and weight, and kitsch. But when you're faced with a concept that has two possible paths, teach. When the real problem begins. How do you choose? That is the big question. And that is exactly what this book is all about. It revolves entirely around the theme of choice. At the very beginning of The Unbearable Lightness of Being, Milan Kundera uses two whole chapters to lay out the ideas of choice and eternal recurrence. At so many points in your life, haven't you wondered what it would be like to choose again? To go back and pick a different path? Thinking that if you'd chosen differently, your life would be completely unlike what it is now. A different upbringing, a different career, different lovers, different friends. Maybe if I'd done that back then, my life would be better now. Just like in human history, where war plays out again and again, this eternal recurrence repeats itself countless times. Whether you look at the big picture or the small details, the only lesson humanity ever learns from history is that we don't learn any lessons from history at all. Because the same tragedies just keep repeating. So in a way, this kind of cycle is both empty and meaningless. Tomas is a doctor living in the capital city of Prague. He had a lot of lovers. But for Tomas, whenever he was with other women, he never spent the night. If they came to his place, once they were done, he'd have to send them home. He hated waking up next to a strange body in the middle of the night. The whole scene of men and women getting up in the morning disgusted him. He didn't want anyone hearing him brush his teeth in the bathroom. And sharing an intimate breakfast together didn't appeal to him either. He enjoyed sex, but he had this powerful, overwhelming need to be alone. One time, Tomas was on a business trip. At the hotel where he was staying, he met a waitress. While he was waiting for his coffee, he could feel the girl's eyes on him. As a seasoned veteran of love and liquor, Tomas could tell this girl was into him. After a brief chat, he learned the girl's name was Teresa. Later, he returned to Prague. To his surprise, this waitress actually came all the way to Prague alone just to find him. When she arrived, she had a bag slung across her shoulder. In her hands, Teresa was holding a thick book, Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. She seemed quite happy, even a bit overly excited and giddy. Teresa tried to act like she hadn't come specifically for him. Tomas felt a bit of pressure. He was afraid this girl from a small town had come to Prague for him, ready to devote her entire life to him. But that night, Tomas was still very nervous. He said something. After he spoke, Teresa suddenly came down with a fever. This time, she fell asleep right there beside him. When he woke up in the morning, he found Teresa still asleep, clutching his hand. Had they really been holding hands like that all night? It felt unbelievable to him. And just like that, this woman had spent the night at his place. She woke up to find Teresa clutching his hand tightly. He looked at her, struggling to understand what had just happened. As he thought back over the past few hours, he felt like he had breathed in some strange, sweet scent of happiness. In that moment, he suddenly felt as if he had fallen in love with this girl. As for the reason, he couldn't explain it. The beginning of a relationship is often hard to figure out. The word compassion is made up of the prefix calm and the root passion. It comes from Latin. The root of this word originally means to suffer. So having compassion, or empathy, means being able to share in another's suffering, to share all other emotions too, like joy, worry, happiness, or pain. So this kind of compassion is the highest form of emotional imagination. It is a kind of telepathy of the heart. The author says among all emotional states, this is the most advanced. Metaphors are dangerous things. A simple metaphor can give birth to feelings. Watching Teresa beside him in bed. Thomas said she was like a child placed in a basket sealed with resin. She needed someone to protect her so badly, so fragile. How could anyone just set that basket carrying a child adrift on rushing, dangerous waters? If the daughter of the Pharaoh hadn't grabbed that little basket carrying Moses from the water, there would be no Old Testament, none of our civilization as we know it. How many ancient myths begin with a wife and child being rescued? If Polybus hadn't adopted Oedipus, Sophocles could never have written his magnificent tragedy. From then on, they both looked forward to falling asleep together with quiet delight. Dumas wanted to say that the purpose of their lovemaking wasn't about chasing pleasure, but to fall asleep together in perfect harmony. Thomas had found his one true love. But even with Teresa, Thomas just couldn't break things off with his old lovers. He needed those other women. What was he searching for in all these women? What was it about them that drew him in? Isn't physical love just the same thing repeated over and over again? But to Thomas, it was never like that. Because there was always that tiny percentage, that part you just couldn't imagine. People are all different, if you could put a number on it, if they were 99.9999% the same. That 1,000,000th part of difference is what fascinated him. That one tiny, unimaginable sliver of a difference. That minuscule, elusive blank space. And that blank space left him restless. He wanted to discover that one part in a million and conquer it. Thomas was obsessed with this desire. In his eyes, this was the true meaning of his fascination with women. He wasn't obsessed with women themselves, but with the unimaginable part found in each one. So what drove Thomas to pursue all these women wasn't sensual pleasure, but this desire to conquer the world. Now obviously, in everyday life, we don't encourage this kind of womanizing behavior from guys like Thomas. But in a literary work, we can see Thomas's burning quest as a form of rebellion against the dullness of life. In our today lives of work and study, we often want to break the routine and find something new and different. Teresa represents those rules we have to follow and the responsibilities we have to carry. Sometimes we need freedom to do something lighthearted and enjoyable, but everything we carry with us, all those responsibilities, these always there. They shape who we are. And sometimes, we just want to break away and do something different. It's something easy, something joyful. But we still carry so much with us. All that weight on our shoulders. Your ideals, your ambitions, your family, your children, the person you love, tractor may be some life goal you're striving for. But we can't just see all that weight as a burden. They're also an essential part of who we are. So we can't just see them as the weight of life, plain and simple. So-called the weight of life is really this endless tension between our desire for carefree indulgence and the sense of responsibility we can't escape. Thomas finds himself completely trapped. In his lover's eyes, he's marked by the guilt of his love for Teresa. And in Teresa's eyes, he's stained by the guilt of his affairs and his infidelity. Caught in this struggle, Thomas keeps drifting between Teresa and other women. The question of how to choose keeps spinning in his mind, the options of lightness and weight, flickering constantly. Spirit and flesh. Spirit refers to the soul, and flesh means the physical body. Do we often wonder if the soul truly exists? Of course, with all the progress in modern medicine, the body isn't such a mystery anymore. Even the emotions we experience can be explained by brainsets. Dopamine creates that feeling of craving in us. Oxytocin builds attachment to our partners. And when we're in love, phenethylamine helps trigger our emotions, creating that sweet, joyful high. But what is the soul, really? The truth is, When Teresa quit her job as a hotel waitress, cut ties with her family, and went to Prague all alone, it wasn't just for love. She wanted to escape that environment she so deeply hated. Teresa's mother was a vulgar woman. She'd often walk around the house completely naked. Teresa felt so embarrassed that she would go and close the curtains. Her mother would then bring this up while talking to the neighbors. She'd seize the chance to talk about how Teresa tried to cover herself up, afraid of losing face. She'd say all this while laughing, and the other women would howl with laughter too. Teresa's face would turn bright red. Her mother wouldn't let up, saying, "What's there to be embarrassed about?" Then she'd give herself a loud slap. Looking utterly wanton, and let out a few loud farts. The women would all be in stitches. Her mother would also blow her nose loudly and describe in detail how she had sex, even showing people her false teeth. The whole display was enough to make your skin crawl. To Teresa, her mother was the very image of vulgarity and ugliness. This was also the first time Teresa faced a choice between spirit and flesh. Should she stay in her small town, living with the mother who shared her features and gave her life? Or should she pursue the joy of her own soul, chasing after Thomas, the man who read books quietly amid all the noise of life? The Thomas she saw as the very opposite of vulgarity, refined and polite. Teresa threw herself into her new life in Prague with a surge of passion. But this passion was both intense and fragile. He was terrified that one day, people would tell him, "You don't belong here. Go back to where you came from." Teresa's entire life, all her yearnings, were tied to one single thread, Thomas's voice. It was this voice that made all her deepest desires feel within reach. It was this voice that lifted her timid soul, the one she kept hidden deep inside, and made it soar. For Thomas, Teresa held a very significant place in his heart. She represented the kind of love he truly believed in. And to keep her from suffering, Thomas married Teresa, and together they got a dog named Karen. At the same time, Teresa found a job in the photo lab at a local magazine. While living in Switzerland, Sabina also met a university professor named Franz. Now, here's a story within a story, within a story, actually, several layers of stories. In one of them, Teresa plays second violin. Sabina is on viola, and Franz plays cello. That's why this novel is also vividly described as a polyphonic novel. In fact, the plot isn't really the main focus here. Earlier, with help from Thomas's former lover Sabina, and drawing on Milan Kundera's use of a musical concept, polyphony. So what is polyphony? It's when two or more melodic lines unfold simultaneously. They related, yet distinct. Each line is independent, but together they form a harmonious whole, creating a chordal relationship with one another. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, while living and studying in Switzerland, Sabina also met a university professor named Franz. And here we have a story within a story, within a story, actually, several layers of stories. In one of them, Teresa plays second violin, Sabina is on viola, and Franz plays cello. That is why this novel is also vividly described as a polyphonic novel. The plot of this book isn't really the main focus. Milan Kundera often weaves in long passages of his own philosophical insights between brief segments of the story. He even talks about why he created these characters in the first place. He also delves into a philosophical analysis of the story's events. Thanks so much for sticking with this video all the way to the end. In our next video, we'll cover what happens after Thomas moves to Switzerland. And we'll explore the concept of kitsch, how it emerges, and the meaning it represents in this novel. Hey everyone, it's your disaster number 3 here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you in the next video.